COVID cases have hit hospitals hard over the last few months. But unfortunately, COVID-19 isn't the only thing they have to worry about. Take a look. When you go to the hospital, you give all kinds of personal information, like your birthday and social security number. That information is then stored into the hospital's computer system with other private info, like your blood type and what medications you're taking. Imagine if a cyber hacker not only got their hands on this information, but also held it hostage so medical professionals couldn't access it. Unfortunately, this is reality, and the numbers have only increased during the pandemic. Over the past 2 years, 89% of healthcare organizations experienced a data breach. And in September 2020 alone, 9.7 million healthcare records were compromised. Why is this happening? And is there anything you can do to protect yourself? Wow, this is scary. Back in September, one of the primary U.S. hospital chains experienced a major cybersecurity attack at over 400 locations. And reports say it may have been one of the largest cyber attacks in U.S. history. So that being said, I'd like to bring in tech expert Sarah Evans to tell us what is going on here. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, Dr. O. Thanks so much for having me.
First of all, why are hospitals being targeted by cyber hackers in the first place?
This isn't something new, but you mentioned it at the beginning of the segment. COVID-19 is here. It's among us, and hospitals are being over-inundated with more people coming in than ever. And anytime you take your eye off the ball or you get distracted, that's when hackers can really look for extra ins to get in and get data. Hackers, number one, know that data is collateral, and what could be more personal than your personal data and healthcare data? So it becomes very valuable in places, not only in the dark web, but they can monetize it by keeping it from hospitals and then asking them to pay for it back, or going after actual individuals, patients. Think about plastic surgery offices. That can be really personal photo or imagery, and people will pay to keep that removed from the internet. So it's just horrible, but it's a supply and demand issue.
So walk us through this. What happens when a cyber hacker gets their hands on the data stored in the hospital's electronic system?
What they're doing once they get the information is holding it hostage, meaning hospitals, physicians, healthcare providers can't access it. From a very practical standpoint, think about a critical care unit, and you need to quickly reference the most recent tests or find out what drug interactions are poor for that patient. If you can't get it, now it becomes life-threatening, and it really is a life or death issue. On a not so extreme scale, it can create a large backlog in administrative issues. Think about redundancy. You have to go back and check a person's name, birth date, just items you have to check quickly before doing a blood draw or something like that. If you don't have access to it, it creates a backlog in the system, which means more hours in the ER or at the hospital.
So, Sarah, most average people don't know a ton about cybersecurity. They don't know a lot about what encryption means or what the two-factor authentication means. Sometimes they are even annoyed by it, but obviously it's all there to protect us. So what can the average person do? Some practical tips to protect themselves today from any kind of data hacking?
I'm going to tell you exactly what I tell my parents, and you don't have to know a thing about cybersecurity. In fact, the tips that I have are things you should be doing anywhere, anytime when you are dealing with healthcare, because you're your own patient advocate. Number one, making sure you have a safe and secure password, not your name or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Don't use the public Wi-Fi at the hospital to reference your medical information or personal information, because that could be open, or maybe the firewall isn't protected. This is a huge one I got from a doctor friend of mine. She said, every time you get a test done, ask for a physical copy of it to bring home and put in your medical file. That way, if something happens and the hospital gets hacked, you have a copy of that in hand, and be a diligent note taker. Also in your healthcare file, you just got to test, what does it mean? Who did you speak to? What date was it done? And now you've created your own redundant backlog, which doesn't hurt anyone.
It's a scary world out there, but with these tips that you've shared, I think we can feel a little more safe. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Stay safe and well.
You too.
Thank you.